Well, hello there, friends, on this delightful Friday evening, February 15, 2019. I think it's very important to maintain a balance of recognizing things outside of yourself that can affect you, but at the same time, recognizing your own responsibility and things that you can control in your life that you're responsible for. It's very easy to go in extremes where you can either blame just things, external factors, and that's it's all this external stuff that's why you are where you are in life. But you can also go in the other extreme where it's just, oh, it's all your fault. You should have done this or that, while completely ignoring the fact that, there are things outside of your control that could very much ultimately affect you, when it comes to this whole sort of incel, FA, TFL, whatever thing, it's really easy to, you're kind of going through what you are in life. You look online and you don't know, is this just you? Is this just the thing you're going through? And you find communities out there and you see, oh shit, I'm not the only one going through it, and there's names and categories and whatever, and maybe you make some connections and stuff like that, but it's very easy to go extreme in all this, you know what I mean? And make it very much a large part of your identity. And it's like, well, I'm just a this, and that's all there is to my life, and I can't do anything else. And so it becomes this thing where that's kind of all there is to you, right? That's all you make it out to be, and it's all you consume and listen to and watch. And you have to admit that there is just kind of a certain degree of absurdity to it all, in that, somebody, Leslie Chang, made a comment in one of my live streams about, there should be an island for incels or something like that. And my response was, it'd be a complete nightmare, because it'd just be a place where a whole bunch of dudes would argue with each other about whose theory about what women want and don't want is correct, and telling each other to kill themselves and this and this. You would think that like a whole bunch of men going through similar things of loneliness, not being able to find anyone, etc., that maybe you'd want to be a little bit more supportive of each other. Whether or not you're ultimately able to fix the loneliness issue, it's kind of like, well, shit, man, what else can you do in life, right? What else can you do even if you can't fix this? At least support each other that way. But instead, it's just a bunch of people arguing and telling each other to kill themselves, and this and this, and oh, it's over, and there's nothing else you can do in life, and stuff like that. And sure, maybe there's a lot of truth to some things, and it does feel kind of dire, but there's kind of more to you as a person than just that. And yes, it is sad to think about sometimes about what you missed and the challenges that you faced, and I do ultimately think that like the little thought that I had of what generally causes this is more or less accurate to an extent. Now, obviously, everybody's journey in this is a bit different, but I think there's some general themes, if you will, on an overall sense that is accurate, where it's essentially this. You have struggles in sort of that critical period of time of late middle school, high school, college, and a little bit post-college, where you were never really able to establish anything with a social circle and a meaningful social circle where you were able to, like meet a girl or something like that. Or maybe it was something that you established but lost. And it's just something, the more time that goes on, it really does become very evident how much is dictated by a meaningful social circle in your life. So if it's something that you were not able to get a hold on, or lost, or barely, got anything going, you really do miss out on quite a lot, because most normal people, generally speaking, the way people meet in general is through something like that. Maybe somebody has success through the internet or something like that, but generally speaking, it's friends, family, work, school, interest groups, etc. So if that's not a thing that you had or have or lost, well, it will lead to something like this. So there's that aspect mixed with a dating market that's obviously very, very screwed up with, okay, yes, sure, oh, well, women's standards are high. Well, what can you say, folks? What can you say if you had a lot of choice, what would your behavior be like? In a dating market that's just very screwed, and how people can very easily just kind of change their mind and this and that, and in a world that's, I do believe, is being engineered, where the sexes are being engineered to fight and whatever with each other. It's basically being deconstructed to an extent. So you're kind of existing in this. And so all of these terms, incel, blah, 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 all of this, these are multiple symptoms. There's multiple things going on here, going back to what I started with, of both your own personal failings, but also things sort of outside of your control, and how you grew up and this and that. So this is kind of what you exist in. And a really good, another kind of analogy, that I have to give the credit to Hell by the Dashboard Light for. And if you don't like him, okay, it's fine, but there is a point to this, that just kind of at least listen to this, that I remember in a live stream he kind of brought up something to the effect of, you kind of have your Maslow's hierarchy of needs, more like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Needs. You've got your kind of pyramid of food, shelter, etc., whatever, and then higher up with the romance, sex, etc., going up to a point at the top of a more sort of life fulfillment, something like that, where what you have going on now is kind of this very incomplete, screwed up pyramid that you're trying to navigate towards a life purpose or something, with a whole lot of things missing, right? And so it is tough, it is tough because, you're the great question of your life, while at the same time missing out on some very crucial things that I think make up a human being's existence. I don't think we were meant to be alone, even though you can sort of train yourself to be alone and survive, but I don't think that we were meant to be alone. But so, it's easy to look at it and get depressed and sad. And yeah, it does suck, right? It does suck, and yeah, you look at the things that you miss, that, whatever other things that you simply cannot, even if you work on yourself now, blah, 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 there are some things that you are simply never going to be able to have now. But, that's not the only aspect of yourself, of you. And there's no point in endlessly dwelling about the lack of oh, I don't have a girlfriend or this, because there's kind of more to you as a person than that. And maybe it's something that you'll ultimately never be able to fix and get over, because it's a thing that you're kind of working with percentages in. Well, maybe you can get fit and blah, 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 and this and that. You're ultimately just kind of working on things that, oh, okay, maybe it'll increase your chance with this, with women like this, and maybe you can try this. Like, you ultimately have no complete guarantee and control over, because you don't know how it's going to go, because I'm sure you'll find plenty of people who, lifted and this or that and didn't do shit for them. So you're kind of controlling percentages, and it's your choice ultimately of what you want to pursue, how far you want to do it with on that angle. And the thing is, you got to realize that it's very easy to look at this kind of stuff and forget about the other shit in your life that you got to work on, that maybe don't even have anything to do with the whole incel, FA, TFL thing that you just kind of let flounder and run away from, etc. And you put your focus on that, where it's like, well, man, maybe you got this other shit you got to work on before you even worry about any of this other stuff. And so, it's very easy to get caught up in. It's very easy to get caught up in. I think realistically, if this is a thing you're going to try to focus on and all that. Sorry, I'm kind of hungry, so if you hear my stomach grumbling. I do believe that your options more or less are online dating, but making absolutely sure you stay the fuck away from Tinder. Because that is just there to completely screw you up. That is, online dating is already a thing not in your favor as a dude, and Tinder is even more so. And that's the thing, man. People, the Tinder statistics and experiments and this and that, that is gonna fuck you up. So stay away from Tinder, man. And if not online dating, then something to do where just the simple reality of you're never gonna meet anybody. being cooped up in your room alone, but some sort of meetup somehow, which I have no experience in, folks. And it's another thing where you have ultimately no guarantee of, but if you sit in your house, you're not going to meet anyone. But it also comes with its own challenges, so it's easier said than done, because you want to do a thing that you're interested in, but you don't want it to just be dudes. So I don't know. It's tough, it's tough, folks, believe me. I think that more or less cold approaching is pretty much a meme. That's not to say that it can't work for somebody or hasn't worked for people, but I do believe that it's more or less the equivalent of telling somebody who's got financial problems to buy a lottery ticket. Oh, well, if you don't win, buy more tickets, buy more numbers. Take a look at the fortune cookie and look at the lucky numbers, man, It's one thing if you're out and about and you can tell that a girl is giving you a lot of eye contact, but it's another thing to just go out in public and randomly approach strangers who aren't even paying the fuck attention to you. And you're essentially propositioning them, is what that is. Well, even Chad gets turned down hundreds of times. Well, great. If that doesn't show you that that's probably not the time to invest in, the return on that investment is so fucking low that I believe it's probably not really worth focusing too much on. Other than maybe possibly, the sort of thrill of like getting over some of the fear of that. But so, whether or not that's a thing you're ultimately able to change, who knows? But that's not the only thing that's you in your life. And so I think it's very important to think of essentially of a life beyond, incel, TFL, FA. Well, that just sounds like a coping strategy, right? Well, so is a lot in life. Isn't everything coping? You have to acknowledge that, maybe you weren't able to do this stuff, and maybe you'll never be able to change it. And maybe for a while of your life, you've kind of been nothing, done nothing, didn't really accomplish much, whatever, but it doesn't mean that the rest of your life has to be that way. That there's, you're just a this, and so there's nothing else that you can do in your life. And I don't believe that's the case. I don't believe that's the case, and I'm willing to bet there's probably some other interests that you have that you forgot about, ignored, put off, etc. I think it's very, very important to reignite those and give them the attention that they deserve, or, like I said, take care of some long-standing issues that maybe you put off for a long, long fucking time that definitely take priority over worrying about having a girlfriend or not. Is all of it fair? This is sort of our path, folks. Our path, whether we like it or not, whether it's fair or not, it is what it is. You know what I mean? It's the path that we must go. I think it's very important to think of a life beyond all of this. Because it'll drive you crazy. It'll drive you absolutely crazy if that's what you're constantly focused on. And believe me, a lot of what I'm saying in this video is me saying it to myself, so I'm not trying to be hypocritical. You know, you may not be able to ultimately change the loneliness, etc., but not everything in your life is completely out of your control. So that's what you got to focus on. You got to make a certain our stomach is grumbling. You got to make a certain peace with this whole thing. Not quitting, not giving up, but a certain peace with it, and like, all right, man, fuck, like, what else is there to my life than just this? And that's up to each and every one of us to determine. Yes, I know it sucks, but that is our path, whether we like it or not, folks. And on that note, this video didn't exactly come out like I had in my head, but oh well. It is what it is. So, take care of yourselves. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.